Hello, my name is Linda, and I'm here to share with you my crazy problem with my mom. The problem started when we got our stupid cat, which my mother named Brenda. Naming the cat a similar name to mine seemed funny at first, but later on, it started to make much more sense, because that cat was just like another daughter to her, and it's when the name similarity stopped being funny. Brenda became an inseparable part of our family. I was 12 years old, and I really enjoyed having a pet cat. But then I started to notice that there was a competition going on between me and that cat. Funnily enough, I had to compete with a cat to win my mother's attention. Brenda was all over my mother since day one. She would hurry up to her whenever my mom called out her name, and Brenda always sought her attention whenever she felt like it. Well, I was left out, and no one bothered to interact with me. Whenever our relatives and friends came over to visit, my mom would go on and on about Brenda and what Brenda did and how cute Brenda is, and she never stops talking about that cat. All of that would happen while the cat was sitting in her lap, and I'm serving them drinks. With time passing, things became even more extreme. My mother stopped expressing her love to me in any way, shape, or form possible. All I kept hearing was how my mother sweet talks to that ugly, annoying cat. She called her sweetheart, honey, dear, and never missed a chance to tell Brenda how much she loved her. On top of that, every time I went to talk to my mom about anything, she would dismiss me and say that she's busy with the cat. Whenever I wanted to go out with my mom, she preferred to stay home with Brenda, and if we did go out, Brenda would always join us too. I couldn't help but feel so jealous. I was losing this battle against that cat, and I was helpless. At that point, I have tried every possible way to regain my mother's attention. I got her gifts, made her pancakes, and did my bed every morning, which she didn't even notice. Until one day, I decided that this situation should not carry on like that, and I had to take matters into my own hands. This cat does not belong in my family anymore, and she should disappear. I knew my mother would probably miss her a lot, but soon enough, she'll get over that cat, and she'll start loving me again and giving me all the attention I need. So, I set up a plan. I had to wait until my mother went to visit my sick grandma, grab that cat, and drop her off somewhere far away. That was the only possible time I could do it, because my grandma was old and allergic to cats, so Brenda had to stay home. My plan was ready, and I waited for my mother to visit Grandma. As soon as she did, I picked the cat and took the bus to a random place. I just got on the bus and waited for as long as I could before I got off. We reached a place which seemed like a park near a forest that was full of trees, and it seemed just perfect to leave the cat here. So I put Brenda on the ground and said, "Shoo, shoo, Brenda, go away! I never want to see your face again." Watching her walk away felt so satisfying. It almost felt like she was walking away with all my problems with her. By then, it was time for me to go back home, as it was getting dark and my phone's battery died. I didn't know where I was, but I knew for sure that taking the bus from the opposite direction street would be the right thing to do, and I would if I would easily figure out which stop to get off. On the bus, I was looking out the window and was having a hard time recognizing any of the streets. An hour passed, and I still wasn't able to identify my location, and it was when I started to freak out. Ironically, I wanted Brenda to get lost, but I ended up getting myself lost in the city. I didn't know what to do, especially that my phone's battery has died, and even if I borrowed someone's phone, I was still hesitant about what to tell my parents. I obviously couldn't tell them that I purposely made Brenda disappear, and every excuse I thought of sounded like a lie. Therefore, I had to find my own way home no matter what. So, I walked around the streets and kept asking people which way to go, and after 2 long hours, I managed to reach home safely. On my way, I wondered whether my mom had noticed my absence, since Brenda was gone too. I walked into the house, and as soon as I stepped in, I saw my mom and dad looking nervous and worried while sitting in the living room and making phone calls. When my mom saw me, she burst into tears and started asking me where I have been. My parents then told me that they were very worried about me. And the truth is, I was overjoyed to discover that they actually cared about my disappearance, not Brenda's, that stupid cat. I hugged my mom and told her that I got lost on my way back and that I'm glad I got home safely. I then looked at her and asked, "How come you noticed I disappeared even though Brenda is not here?" My mom looked very confused and asked me what I am talking about. My mother seemed like she had no idea that Brenda was gone, which made me happy because I knew my disappearance made her forget about that cat. So I started to plan how I was going to tell her how I felt about coming in second place after Brenda and how horrible it was, when suddenly I heard a meow voice coming towards us and chills went down my spine. It was Brenda! That ugly fat cat found her way home before I did. I could not believe what was happening. I went above and beyond to get rid of that cat, and there she was, coming to sit on my mother's lap while I, my mother's actual daughter, was hugging her. Ugh! What is wrong with that attention-thirsty cat? Can't she just find her own cat family? I was fuming with anger and my face turned red and blue. My father asked, "Linda, are you okay, dear?" I looked at him and I screamed, No, I'm not okay. I hate that cat and I want it out of our house now. You have to choose between me and Brenda." And that's the last thing I said before I ran up to my room crying. I couldn't believe that I have lost the battle against Brenda, a lazy, fat cat who knows nothing about life. And now I wasn't even sure that my mom would choose me over her. A few seconds later, my mom came knocking on my door. I told her to come in and close the door behind her because I didn't want Brenda in my room. So she did. She sat beside, said, "I don't understand what this is all about, Linda. I thought you liked our cat." "Your cat, Mom. I have nothing to do with her," I said. My mom seemed to finally understand what was going on, and suddenly I started seeing tears in her eyes. "What's wrong, Mom?" I said. "I can't believe that I made you feel like you were getting less attention than Brenda. I didn't mean for that to happen, and I never actually noticed my behavior until now," my mom said. At that moment, I could see how sorry my mother was, and I couldn't stay mad at her anymore. So I wrapped my arms around her and gave her a big hug and told her that I loved her. We both dried out our tears and smiled at each other. My mom promised me that she will change her ways and she'll never make me feel lonely or neglected again. As for Brenda, I still despise her for the struggle she made me go through. But I told my mom she can keep her as long as I am her #1 priority and her only daughter. What I learned from this experience is that you shouldn't be afraid to speak up and tell others what you think, especially your parents, because they will always be there for you, even if they love their cat more than you would have wished them to.